Pursuing protein. Because of hunting-gathering method of resource extraction prevailed throughout the most of history of our species, it has been intensely studied by archaeologists and ethnographers in a quest to understand long-term biological and cultural evolution of hominids. Hunting, gathering societies have also been at the center of the many prolonged debates in the social sciences concerning the ecological base of culture and behavior and mythological controversies, or the use of analogy in historical reconstructions, and most recently, hunter gatherers have been invoked in weighty theoretical disputes, or group versus individual selection. Indeed, much of extended history of the hunter gatherers has been hotly contested. This is well exemplified in the changing image of such societies over the past 100 years, from primitive savages at the mercy of cruel nature, they were recast as the original affluent society, enjoying a surprising amount of leisure time as well as a good diet, good health, and large measure of social equality. Much of this, so the argument runs, was lost with the rise of the civilization. In such a perspective, agriculture is no longer viewed as a progress and improvement in human condition. Interpretations of earliest stage of our hunting history are so varied because of evidence is scarce and difficult to read. Even such a basic questions as a relative role and weight of meat, vegetal matters in the diet of early hominids remain a point of dispute. This is so because acquisition of meat, whatever its nutritional importance, is a complicated question since this source of energy might be captured by active hunting or opportunistic scavenging or by some combination of two. While more complex societies tend to view scavenging meat from recent kills as inappropriate, this was hardly the case in foraging societies. Indeed, some specialists now argue that population growth in the later Paleolithic should be associated with dietary breadth. This expansion and diversification of human diet, called broad spectrum evolution hypothesis, involved increasing utilization of small animals and scavenging in consequence of growing pressure on available source. Although this agreement abounds, there is a strong consensus on at least one crucial point. All agree that there were great variation of hunting-gathering mode. For some societies, predation may be generalized, particularly in temperature climes where gathering is important, or highly specialized, particularly in northern latitudes where people live off species such as reindeer or sea mammals. In a view of many scholars, it is extreme plasticity of this method of resource extraction that explains why humans have been able to occupy and successfully exploit a great variety of ecosystems from high Arctic to tropical rainforests. But hunting was plastic in yet another important way. The advent of domesticated plants and animals, so-called Neolithic evolution, didn't replace or even displace hunting, as is sometimes implied or imagined by evolutionary models in which new modes of production trump over and destroy the old. In many places, hunting as an economic activity runs parallel for millennia with new methods of resource extraction, thus greatly complicating hunting, herding, and agricultural histories. This adaptability is reflected in a striking variation in the hunt found among peoples of very similar ethnic and cultural backgrounds. Among the Tungusic speakers of eastern Siberia and northern Manchuria, for example, some groups of people Some groups followed and hunted wild reindeers as their primary occupation. Some combined it through pastoral nomadism and hunting, some agriculture and hunting, while still others fished in summer and trapped for bearing animals in winter. Moreover, some Tungus hunted only from horseback and some only on foot. Such variation, fashioned by environmental conditions, historical contingency, and cultural choice, demonstrates the great flexibility built into human hunting. It mutates, combines comfortably with other means of subsistence, and becomes an auxiliary occupation, supplementing new economy in important ways. The latter adaptation is particularly evident among the pastoral nomads of the Eurasian steppe, who seem to have developed a special herder-hunter mode of production. Nomads hunted for a number of reasons, including the protection of their herd from predators, but food acquisition was always a powerful motive. The importance of game in their diet is widely reported in ancient and medieval literary sources. Moreover, accumulating the archaeological evidence point to the same conclusion. For example, during the Khazar era, from the 7th to 10th century, wild animal bones account for 20 to 25% of total recovered from many sites along the Don River. Presence of the weapons specialized for chase further underscores the relevance of hunt for that economy. In the light of this data, it would be mistaken to understand the hunt in a nomadic society as simply a means of procuring survival food in times of shortage. Game was, in fact, part of their normal fare and, moreover, part of the hot cuisine regularly served at the courts of nomadic empires. In the 11th century, envoys from Chinese Sung dynasty to Liao, founded by He Tang, were repeatedly treated to such delicacies as marinated peasants and choice cuts of musk deer meat. In the era of Mongolian Empire, 13th to 14th centuries, same culinary patterns and preferences are noted. Marco Polo relates the prevalence of game birds and imperial cuisine, which we know from Chinese sources were produced by special hunting households, subordinate to bureau of household provisions, but commoners too more were dependent on the hunt. Carpini in Mongolia in 1230s was well aware of the dietary importance of chase, and Rubruk a decade later states unequivocally that Mongols obtain a large portion of their food by chase. The reason for this reliance on game is made abundantly clear by Shu Ting, a Sung envoy in Mongolia in 1230s. He reported that throughout the entire hunting season, they constantly eat with that which they had have taken in the chase and so kill fewer sheep. Hunting therefore contributed the additional calories and at the same time spared herd animals which provide the milk products so central to nomadic diet. In the Eurasian steppe, herders, for very sound economic reasons, were always skilled and active hunters. It is perhaps more surprising that throughout pre-modern times sedentary agriculturalists also relied on the hunt to augment their food supply. Writing in 6th century northern Europe, Gregory of Tours revealingly remarks that drought and epidemics not only decimated domestic herds but game animals as well. Such laws are coupled in medieval sources because both categories of animals had economic value to populace which ate much game. As land in northern and eastern Europe was routinely evaluated not only in terms of its potential productivity for crops and livestock, but also for its potential harvest of fish and game. This was the case, George Duby argues, because in many parts of early medieval Europe agricultural production was insufficient to feed population, and consequently hunting and gathering still held a prominent place in domestic economy of noble and peasants. This means, of course, that knowledge of hunting and gathering techniques were died never died out in their societies, and that while nominally in an agricultural mode, they continued to draw upon time tested practice of such much earlier mode of production for enrichment and at times for survival. Since early medieval Europe was arguably one of the less developed agricultural societies in Eurasia, this continued commitment to hunting may be ascribed to special circumstance and therefore deemed exceptional. What then an ancient cradles of agriculture? Had they feed themselves from progressed beyond these older methods of resource extractions? The answer is no. Hunting still had its place in nutritional life of early centers of settled life. To begin in ancient Near East, stag and gazelle were served at the great banquets of Assyrian king Ashurnasirpal II. And there are biblical references of consumption of venison of the heyday of King Solomon. In pre-Islamic empires of Iran, those of Hanids and Parthians and Sassanids, courts and commoners regularly ate proceeds of the chase. The same pattern of consumption can be documented in the neighboring region of Transcaucasia in the late Antique of the Middle Ages. In more recent times, according to European travelers, Mughal court also ate much game, while antelope, hare, peacock, and deer, all killed by local hunters, were readily available to easy rates in coastal cities of India. More expectedly, this pattern of prevailed in China, which by many historians reckon had most sophisticated and productive agrarian economy in the world until the rise of modern scientific farming. During the whole of the imperial era, 221 to 1911, wild rabbit and deer supplement of rural populations' diet, and much game was sold in urban centers such as Hangzhou, one of the major cities in Sung era. In the 18th and 19th centuries, this was still in the case in Beijing and other cities of north which received from Manchuria, particularly in wintertime when meat was eager to transport substantial quantities of deer, boar, and game birds. Beyond the obvious conclusion that the nutritional contribution of the hunting to human diet didn't end with the advent of agriculture. Even the most intensive kind, this brief survey reveals another consequential fact down to very recent times. There was still much wilderness intact, some of it close to major urban centers and to areas of agriculture. This meant that human encounters with wild animals were commonplace, and these often traumatic confrontations had, as we shall see, serious political ramifications.